Well, hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator. Welcome back to Total Party Skills. I regret to be the bearer of ill news, but I guess I'm going to have to tell you a little bit about Revenge of the Lesbian Illuminati, a role-playing game that I'm pretty sure everyone's going to hate. I know I'm not necessarily the most logical spokesperson for a game with Lesbian Illuminati in the title, but I wrote the fucker, so I guess it might as well be me. So the basic genesis of Revenge of the Lesbian Illuminati comes from two of my oldest source books, Secrets of the Lesbian Illuminati and The Young and the Restless Dead, which were both source books for my prototype horror role-playing game Ghosts of the Shadow Zone. So I mushed them together, dragged them back in time from the 1970s to place them in 1955 so that they're contemporary with Girls Gone Vampire, and boom, we have Revenge of the Lesbian Illuminati. Unlike the New York-based Girls Gone Vampire, Revenge of the Lesbian Illuminati is set in Los Angeles in 1955. And from the options available in character creation all the way up through the overall premise of the game, it's pretty political. It pokes its finger at a lot of things that are going on in, modern-day, broader cultural politics. It also has quite a few things to say about the era of time in which it's set, the 1950s. And there's aspects of the game that directly address some of the things that have been strangely controversial in role-playing games as of late. So the basic idea here is you have characters that are sophomores in college, female students at the University of California, Noir Angeles. Characters start off as initiates who are being introduced into a cult of witchcraft known as the Lesbos Witches, jokingly referred to as the Lesbian Illuminati by outsiders who don't really understand what the hell's going on. It started as a joke, but as time goes on, and the Lesbos Witches further embrace the title of Lesbian Illuminati, it will start having an effect on some of their recruiting practices, shall we say. But in truth, the reason why they're called lesbian has nothing to do with
sapphic adult activities in the night,
although that's certainly a possibility. But it's more from the fact that the Lesbos Witches trace, the origins of their tradition to the Isle of Lesbos in the Aegean Sea. They're Greek witches with a heavy emphasis on education, and they've spent centuries embedding themselves in major universities around the Western world so that they can try to influence upcoming generations of people to make the world more fair and safe for women. Now, the game has a built-in game loop that will last for quite some time. At first, it'll help give, the game structure and an immediate agenda for player characters to have to accomplish, because they're going to be expected to have to go to their classes and, get their degree. They're an education-based witch cult, so, they don't want their initiates to blow off all their actual, practical learning and screw up getting their degree just to learn some witchcraft. Instead, they're expected to have to juggle both. And during their sophomore year, as they're, getting their legs under them, they'll be expected to be introduced to some little minor supernatural type of adventures around the college campus. Introductory things, meeting some of the other supernatural creatures that like to lurk around universities, and also dealing with ghosts. But as time goes on, this structure of the built-in game loop of trying to juggle learning how to be a witch with just doing their normal mundane schoolwork, it'll start to become an obstacle. As they become further involved in extracurricular activities, having to make sure that they make it to class every day starts to become a bit of a problem for them if they're trying to solve some sort of supernatural mystery. But in the end, what it will end up happening is at some point, the game will make a hard pivot and become something about Hollywood. And it has quite a few things to say on the subject of, Hollywood and how I feel about the rich and famous. There are other supernatural factions already in Los Angeles who've been manipulating the movie industry to push their own sorts of messaging. And the Lesbos Witches want their own slice of the action now. And so the basic gist is, as the characters go through their college stuff, they will start to be drawn into some of the other supernatural plots that revolve around the Hollywood studio system. Perhaps, being dragged in for an audition, take a little seat on the casting couch, try to get a role. It's a good device, especially for player characters, because since they're playing young ladies in college, and Hollywood loves to exploit the young and beautiful, they kind of will have an in to get themselves involved to go up against the vampires of the California Dream Cult, or the Dead Actors Guild, and the Department of Lesbian Affairs. It uses the total party system, but the more modernized version of the total party system I've been putting out in my more recent releases. It uses the powers-based mysticism for magic as opposed to the more spell-based occult version of magic I have in some of my older games. This, I believe, will help serve to establish a tonal difference with Girls Gone Vampire in terms of how the magic works and how the characters feel. They will be a little bit more super-heroic. It's never spelled out in the book, but I guess you could say that the long-term goal of any campaign of Revenge of the Lesbian Illuminati is for the player characters to get themselves to a point where they can either star in or help create their own in-game off-brand version of Bewitched and use film and television to rehabilitate the public image of the witch as not something ugly and sinister, but as something beautiful and alluring. And that's basically it. Taking some of the most currently hated concepts in role-playing games that the internet loves to try to pick apart and say are terrible, such as games set in college or games featuring lesbian characters. Try to immediately make it compelling by setting it in the 1950s, where LGBT activism was, shall we say, highly frowned upon, and therefore actually making it kind of risky for the characters to put themselves out in that way. No one's giving you an award back then for coming out of the closet. Quite the opposite. In the style of my other, what I call lesbian noir games, that mixes the paranoia around sexuality and infidelity with the paranoia of the 1950s over occult influences and communism. There are options for male players who absolutely refuse to play a female character, but for some weird reason still would like to play by allowing either Minotaurs or Rakshasa to be available as optional player characters. But an entire group comprised of those character types wouldn't really be a Revenge of the Lesbian Illuminati game anymore, now would it? You might as well just go play Girls Gone Vampire, where there's more variety in exactly how you want to structure your campaign and involve what kind of supernaturals and mortal cults. Revenge of the Lesbian Illuminati is a pretty high concept in the end. And beyond the fact that there's things about it that will annoy people on all ends of the spectrum, one way or the other, and the fact that you will be hard-pressed to find players to actually want to sit down and play this thing, I still think I've pulled off taking one of the most hated concepts and making it functional, fun, quirky, and has something to say. That's not exactly what you might think it's trying to say at first. It's up for you to decide. Also, I quite intentionally put barely any art at all in it. You actually have to read and visualize shit in this one, motherfucker. And the font I chose is designed to specifically invoke the idea that you're looking through some girl's handwritten diary. And so that's it. Check out Revenge of the Lesbian Illuminati, the role-playing game. You can get a print copy on Amazon.com. You can get a PDF on DriveThruRPG. If you're seeing this before Halloween, the PDF might still be on sale. But if it's after Halloween, it'll probably have gone back to its normal PDF sales price. So check out links below. Be sure to complain about it on the internet. Tell people what you didn't like about it, because that's really the market here. Is that this is a hate view. It's the Velma of role-playing games potentially. It's irredeemable. Lesbian sex in college in the 1950s and witchcraft. My God, what has America come to? But, you know, as I keep saying in the ads, when it comes to Revenge of the Lesbian Illuminati, you'll never know if you like it until you try it. Until next time, stay waspinated.